Ghosts were very, very popular back in Shakespeare's time because that was the folklore. Everybody talked about ghosts. It was very, very big in that Elizabethan period. Ghosts speak to this life and the next. And Shakespeare's plays speak to this life and the next life. And that our lives are consequential, that they don't just end here.
It was the first season, my first season at the festival, and nothing had happened for me until our last night in the space. We had already loaded all the wigs out, loaded all the supplies out. We were just making one more loop around to make sure no one else was in here.
It was during a production of Romeo and Juliet.
I was coming into the auditorium with a friend of mine, and we walked through the side door around the corner, and we both stopped.
And so we got into the theater that night, and the daylight curtains were closed, and so there was no light in the lobby of the auditorium out there. The only light in the theater was from the exit signs. And at this point is when I looked up at the stage.
As I entered the diary room, out of the corner of my eye, I saw a figure standing to my left, just to the entrance of the tunnel.
And I see a woman in white come from the tunnel that leads up to the Adams stage, through the costume room, and into the dressing room that Chris had just went into.
And my friend pointed and said, "Face."
So no one should have been in the pipe tunnel. And I saw a guy that looked like he was hunched down going through the pipe tunnel.
And it looked like she was just leaning around right here, just peeking around at us. And you could see right through her.
I was thinking that it was one of the guys that was on my crew because he was really tall, but he had red hair.
There was a gray cloud, kind of like a mist.
And it was a guy wearing, it looked like he was wearing all black, and it was definitely like a full three-piece suit. And I thought that was strange. And then for a moment I'm like, wait, nobody in this show is wearing a three-piece suit.
It started to kind of like condense itself and kind of form into a figure.
They call him the Top Hat Man.
Like he said, it looked like mist, but it moved like smoke, if that makes sense.
And the figure started to kind of quiver and shake.
It was clearly a person. I could see hair, I could see the dress.
And then it disappeared and shot to center stage.
I couldn't see a face. I couldn't see appendages. It looked like floating.
So I look again, nobody's there.
I locked the door, turned around, and he was gone, and I could see the first aid kit again.
So that was a little frightening. I quickly washed the dishes that I had in my hands and got out of there as fast as I could.
So she went back in and she said, "There's nobody in here." And I said, "Okay, Krista, we gotta go." So she ran down the hall. We booked it out through the stage door ramp and into the parking lot.
And that's about all the information I got, because I was kind of on my way out the door at that point. I ran.
Theaters have never been scary places for me. I've never been afraid of ghosts.
I know theaters tend to be a very high energy place.
We are such dramatic people.
I think the energy exchange between an audience and the actors on stage is something that I think either attracts that kind of energy, creates that kind of energy.
So all of that emotion in one place just creates so much energy.
I think the energy from all of those high emotions just leaves an imprint in the space
that entities can just use to make their presence known. And if I were to become a ghost, I think that I would want to haunt the places that I loved the most.
I'm not surprised that there are a lot of ghost legends around theaters, because theater people are a superstitious lot. And one very popular superstition is that of the curse of Macbeth. Macbeth is a cursed play. I think the reason why it's picked up the reputation for being cursed, and if you don't know this, you're not supposed to say Macbeth in or around a theater. In fact, I have some friends that would be really freaked that we're saying this close. Why? Why do that? So you don't say Macbeth. You can say it in the context of the play. And if you say Macbeth on plays, you go outside of the theater, you spin around 3 times, you spit or curse over your shoulder, depending on that, you knock on the door, and you ask for re-entry. And then they let you back in, and that removes the curse after that. But it's because of that feeling of this world and that world are very close, and we're teaching truths and saying things about life and telling human stories. And who wouldn't, other than the paying audience and the other audience, want to join us for a wonderful story about